the FNL Network talk show.
Hi guys, welcome to the FNL Network talk show. I'm your host, Kay Montgomery. I have an awesome panel with me today. We have Geoffrey Owens.
How you doing?
Corey Stowe.
How are you?
And you guys know and love Eugenia.
Hi guys.
So today we're so glad to be back after the holidays. Hope you guys had a great new year. We're going to hop right into it by getting into some messiness. Jeffrey Epstein's flight documents of his airplane schedule have been released, and people who have been writing it and associating with him have also been released, and even more documents are going to be forthcoming this week. So I just wanted to ask you guys about kind of cancel culture, because many people are really excited and in a frenzy. You know, some people are fearful about the names that are coming out. Others are chomping at the bit. It's creating a lot of media hype. I am wondering what you guys think about people being associated with flying on his airlines or on his jets, whatever you want to call them, being canceled out of hand. And then what just is your reaction to cancel culture in general? Do you think it's good for the society or not so great? I'll start with Jeffrey.
What do I think about it? I think we need to know. I think it's a lot of hidden stuff, hidden agendas that people don't come forward with. And I think that's why the world is in so much chaos, because we have these hidden lies and no one's genuine. And I think it needs to come forth. I think everything that's happening is happening for a reason. You know, I'm always going to go biblical. And exposure is good, and maybe it'll change the people and change the world of how they're moving and perceiving things. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Awesome. Okay. What do you think about it, Corey?
Well, I agree with Jeffrey. I mean, you pull it out of the shadows and into the light. It's definitely necessary at the beginning of it. I also don't want to jump to any conclusions yet. Definitely innocent till proven guilty kind of guy. We know Epstein's guilty. We know a lot of them are likely guilty. I don't think their names necessarily being on manifests is 100% guilt yet by any means. I mean, there's all kinds of business all over the world that this guy was doing. And businessmen and women can get caught up in a lot of those things, or maybe they just took a flight from here to there and they were part of a group that took a flight from here to there. And some of the ones that were over and over and over that were absolutely friends with him, you know, Clinton, for instance, it doesn't look so good for some of them. I mean, I think there's a certain level where there's no way you didn't know what was going on if you're around the guy that much. But then I think a lot of people on the list might not be as, it may not implicate anything just yet. And as far as cancel culture goes, I'm not a fan of it, but I mean, it's a necessary aspect of society, right? It's another form of free speech as well. I just think that it can become dangerous when it does presume guilt before innocence. And I think a lot of times cancel culture is about presuming guilt before innocence. We kind of saw all that with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That was a perfect example of just, jumping the gun. Everybody was just tearing Johnny Depp down. And as everything unfolds and we get down to the, let due process do its thing. And sure enough, he's not the villain in this story, but he was the one villainized, lost his, none of us get to watch another Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp now because of that, right? So it's not necessarily healthy to be at the head of all of those causes, but I think as a society, it's healthy to have some of that, as long as we have the other side as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think, Eugenia? What do you say?
Oh my God, guys, I think we're going to be canceled if I'm going to start speaking on every topic. Honestly, I don't know. I'm super traumatized because I was actually supposed to say Jeffrey Epstein a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm not 12, so it's not a good joke to speak, but it's a true thing. There was a model who was, as I understand now, I think she was recruiting somebody, and she's like, oh my God, I have my friend Jeffrey. He's amazing. He helps girls to get education, and people say bad things about him. And, I didn't know. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, maybe, when it just started coming up, and I think he went to jail once. and I had no clue. I like almost stayed there, thank God somehow I avoided that fate, so I was lucky. But it is definitely super traumatic, like watching everything that happens, especially coming from modeling business, and show business and being so close to that. It is almost like re-traumatizing because, it is not a light business. There are dark sides of that, Victoria's Secret, had some connections to that. And I always think like money and the power can lead to so much corruption. I know a lot of people who are associated with that list, and not all of them specifically did something or knew something. I'm sure if I would have gone to, his place and had no idea, like I would be on that list as well. So it's really hard to judge every person on that list. I think it is good that it's coming out. I believe the truth is the truth, and nothing should be secret in a way. But it's very controversial, I hate cancel culture. I like absolutely think it's as well coming from the regime of like 4 channels and Soviet suppression and propaganda. I know that it is so easy to listen to mainstream narrative and like sort opinions about things that we don't know, and nothing is black and white. Nothing is black and white. Nobody's perfect, and we'll have our shadows. I'm glad it's coming out, but cancel culture can, destroy lives. That happens to a lot of teenagers because everybody is texting and, doing some things, and kids especially, they don't know, my kids got in trouble and got called to a psychologist because they texted something on TikTok that they heard somebody else and they didn't mean it. But, these days people just are so hypersensitive, and not specifically for a good reason. It's so political, which like I never believed in politics in a way. I'm always about humanitarian causes and not political causes. I feel at the end we're all human, I never felt the division, and I think people are guided to the wrong thing, to fight on the side who's right and who's wrong, where there's other things that are happening. So I think it's a pretty crazy time, honestly, that we're living in, and being so multicultural and living in all kind of regimes. I feel it's almost like, we are like vomiting all this shadow work that maybe we have to do as humans, and hopefully take something good. I feel like we're on this path. Either we're going to be, robots going to be an AIs, and humans we're going to be just like their animals, or maybe like there's going to be a spiritual awakening, and we're just going to get to another place of consciousness. So of course, I want to hope that all these things that are coming out, it's good to talk about anyway. It's good to have an opinion. It's good to listen to another person's opinion, and not just pull out the camera and like film somebody saying something and then troll them. I think it's very troubling time. And even you were talking about like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I think it's really bizarre that we're all like following somebody's private struggles, getting divorced, no matter what happens, it is really hard to be in a public eye. So I understand a lot of people who are in public eye struggle with like PTSD and anxiety, because you literally can't say a word. And doing comedy, especially now, it's like, oh, you can't say that. You have to run your material all the time. Or, Dave Chappelle, like walking off stage when somebody pulled out a phone, just because you never know how people can twist it a certain way. So I do believe in self-check. How you behave behind the closed doors is who you are as a person. If you can't say something without anybody, like for me, I don't care, well, I was canceled as a Russian anyway, so which is crazy. I feel carry so much shame when I was trying to help the refugees, and they're like, oh, we'll give you an award, but then they're like, oh no, you're Russian. So hypocrisy is another thing that comes up. But I believe we are put on this earth for some reason, where we are to learn some lessons and be a vessel of some lessons that humanity needs to learn. So that's kind of my opinion on everything that is happening right now.
Well, that's why I say the other side has to like be able to, you know what I mean? They have to be able to have cancel culture. We just have to be able to combat it without taking away their right to do, you know what I mean? You got to have the you got to take the good with the bad. If you're going to have free speech, people have to be able to say really stupid things and do horrible things. And we just have to, we have to train ourselves, and we have to train the young ones, and we have to try to live lives where we're kind of modeling this idea of how do you make it through morally and ethically, how do you make it through when we're allowing other people to do horrible things. That's as far as cancel culture. As far as the things Epstein did, there's no allowing. I'm not in any way, shape, or form defending that. That's horrible, and anybody that had anything to do with that absolutely needs to be behind bars. But as far as the cancel culture, yeah, I agree. Like, it has to be something that can happen, but how do we combat it? Right? You have to allow it, but we also have to know how to combat it. And because obviously none of us here seem to agree with it.
I didn't answer.
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love it. I think it's great. I think people should be canceled. I think people need to be canceled more. I think there's a fallacy about cancel culture. We say people are canceled, but nobody's really canceled. Like Dave Chappelle, how many times has Dave Chappelle been canceled? Dave Chappelle is like on his 6th special, post cancelization. Every time he comes out with a special, he has a recent special that he came out with like a week ago, and he's still doing the same trans jokes that he supposedly got canceled for. You know what I mean? Like, so there is really no canceling. Whenever I hear about somebody being canceled, I'm just like, well, when are they coming back? I mean, it feels like for some reason comedians complain about it the most. And I feel like comedians get canceled a lot, but they just come back. I don't know any comedian that hasn't come. Like even Louis C.K., which probably is the biggest person that got canceled. I mean, he got canceled for sexual assault. That he admitted to, right?
That's different.
But that he didn't. It wasn't like he said anything crazy. I mean, he sexually assaulted someone, and then he came out and said like, "Well, this is what happened, and it was assault, whatever." But he's still making specials. He's still earning money. I mean, he runs things out of his own website, which he did before. He wasn't getting the big Netflix deals and all that. He was pocketing a lot of his own money. I know his show doesn't run anymore, but he's still an artist and creating stuff. I don't know. I feel like comedians are able to kind of operate outside of because they don't need the record deal. They don't need the Netflix deal. They can film their own special and just stream it on the web, and like, you know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of times, I think it's funny that we say people are canceled, but really they are able to return. I love cancel culture because I think that it does offer you a chance to return, because we have to see some real work. I feel like in our culture, we're not doing enough to make people do the work. Like, show me what you have done to rehabilitate yourself or to change, or show me that you learned something, you know what I mean? That you, some kind of way evolved. I feel like as long as you've shown that, then we as a culture should have a way or a path to embrace people and welcome them back. But some people definitely do. You need to be called out, and people need to be able
in woke culture.
Say, I'm not going to see that anymore. I don't want to hear you anymore. I don't want to, what were you saying, Corey?
In the woke culture, in this cancel culture, do you see that pathway back? Because I don't see that pathway back. Like, you're talking about Louis C.K., that's a very different beast. This is a man who actually did something off camera. That's a very different. That's Cosby. That's some of these other guys who did things, Weinstein. That's a very different beast from comedians basically not being able to tell a joke and getting canceled because of a joke. Then we're talking about words, and what most of those comedians are discussing is the right to free speech. So if a comedian gets up there and says a joke, we don't have the right. Huh?
Give me a specific comedian. Do you mean like
Chappelle? I'm not going to use Chappelle. And the reason I'm not going to use Chappelle is because he's one of the ones out there hammering away. And I did watch his special the other day. It was awesome. He's hammering away. He's not letting it affect him. So he's leading the way, showing people, hey, it is just words. And if it's just words, then what they're saying in the papers is just words. Right. So I agree with you on in the sentiment that there needs to be a pathway back for somebody like Louis C.K., because this isn't Harvey Weinstein level. It wasn't. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know all the details. Maybe it was. If there's actual sexual assault involved, then no, it's in the same exact level, right? So he's a bad example too. But if you take comedians that just basically are getting run out of colleges, right? Or some of them aren't even necessarily comedians. Like, you take someone like Ben Shapiro. right? And they're out front and they're taking him to task on things and all those things you're saying. They're holding him accountable, but holding him accountable for what? Most of the things that are being said and screamed about him are things that he never actually said and did, right?
So I don't know Ben
That's
Shapiro,
cancel.
and I
That's
can
what that's
tell
how I
you.
define cancel culture, is when one group decides, oh, you're not allowed to say that, and now all the rest of us have to accept that. We can't even get into the, do we forgive them? Do they get a path back? Like, first we have to decide, did they really do something in the first place? So Louis C.K., yeah, that's different, like I said, but you said something dumb. You said something dumb in a comedy special. That I believe there's got to be a path back for. Or you don't like it, turn it off, move on. That's free speech. That's the way it
Is Ben
works, right?
Shapiro a comedian, or is he a white supremacist with a podcast?
He is
Or he
not
just
a
a
white.
conservative?
He's a conservative. He's not a white supremacist at
Okay.
all. He's
Okay.
Jewish, deeply Jewish, in fact.
Okay. So
So
for
what?
me, I
But
would
he's
say,
been a victim of cancel culture, if you will. But he just keeps going. He's gone to colleges before, where they were literally on his way in. They ended up having to call in security. People started destroying property at the college. People were becoming violent. And all of this is because a lot of them are always a white supremacist. And then every one of them screaming at it, it's like, well, how many of you watched him? What did he say? When did he say it? What are you talking about? And that, to me, that's what cancel culture is. It's really when somebody in the mob screams fire and everybody else starts screaming fire. And like I said earlier, without due process, where's the fire? How do we know there was a fire in the first place when we can't even have a conversation or create a path back to reconciliation, because nobody's actually stopped and sifted through the ashes to see if there's any truth in the fact? Like, that's cancel culture to me. So Louis C.K., Weinstein, Epstein, these guys, that's not cancel culture. That's straight up like, no, that's criminals. That's criminal activity, which we should all be frowning upon, which we should all, they should have to the umpteenth of the law. Cancel culture is, and the reason I brought up Johnny Depp is this guy did something, but no, he didn't do something. But we all, not me, but, Disney, all these people, the man lost his job. He lost a very prominent part. He lost a lot of very prominent parts. A career that he spent, 3-4 decades working on is just gone. So it's not about how does he reconcile, how does he change his heart. He didn't do anything in the first place based on what they said he did. So it's false accusations. I think that's what cancel culture to me means. It's false accusations. And then we're going to cancel this guy because this group's upset or that group's upset. And the other groups are like, I don't care that he said or did that thing. We're not talking about a crime. He didn't commit a crime, right? When they commit a crime, very different. But cancel culture is, to me, that's how I would define. And what I see is like wokeness is the idea that we're going to dictate what other people say and do.
no, I think
based on just what they
that's
say
a
and do.
fundamental difference, because then I don't think cancel culture is spurious charges. Like you're saying, cancel culture is they're coming up with their accusations, but they're not true. No, I think cancel culture is someone has come out, they said something, and they're being held accountable for it. And they don't like being held accountable for it because they want to just do and say whatever they want. But listen, you're in the public sphere, sphere, and here we can say, we don't want to hear that. I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to see you doing that. And
well, that's two
I
different things then, though.
anyway. And for me, that's cancellation. It's the public saying, I don't want to see that again. Well, I'll tell you,
that's two different things, though, right?
The Oppenheimer with the Golden Globes. Oppenheimer was the top winner yesterday, taking Best Picture, Best Drama, because we know that the Golden Globes has Best Drama and then they have Best Comedy. So Oppenheimer won Best Drama. Ludwig Göransson won Best Composer. They were just killing it. They were the top winners at the Golden Globes. So I wonder what you guys thought specifically about Oppenheimer. Did you think it was overhyped? Did you think it deserved all of the awards it saw last night? What just was kind of your read also on the Golden Globes itself last night? It was very interesting, I would say. It had a host that it hadn't had before, and it was kind of a different night than usual. Eugenia, what was your take on the Golden Globes if you got to see it, and what did you think about Oppenheimer?
Yeah, well, my husband's movie won a lot of awards, so I'm really excited, and I love The Holdovers. It's like an amazing film. I'm sure they're going to win an Oscar. It's so heartwarming. I was excited to go and attend a lot of events and see Chris Nolan, I mean, I love Chris Nolan. I'm obsessed about him. I didn't see Oppenheimer, so disclaimer, this is the only film I'm usually obsessed. I just didn't have time to sit down because I've been busy when it came out.
You didn't have time for the 8-hour epic. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, and I do want to like rush through that, but this is like on my goal list. It's interesting. I think awards are, I mean, it's like an insider thing. There's a lot of politics involved. I was really happy for my husband, for Paul Giamatti. I think he did such an amazing job in
What
that.
What did your husband do with The Holdovers?
He produced it. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's like an indie film, it's a really heartwarming. A lot of times I feel movies became so big now. It's all about Marvel and action and horror. And, having outside, like in real life, so much craziness happening. Specifically, I don't want to go to movies and see like things explode again, re-traumatizing. So I don't know. For me, it was really fun to go. I love the fashion, of course, all the aspect of it, and just, I think it was very celebratory because we finally came out of pandemic and it was SAG, and I think artists really need to celebrate and connect, and the atmosphere was just really amazing and people were chatting. The only thing is with social media now, there's like an extra layer of, different things where people intrude and then interpret and they resell stories. So it's show business.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And The Holdovers is a very different movie, right? Like it has tons of Oscar buzz around it, but it's kind of the polar opposite of a movie like Oppenheimer. I'm gonna say, Eugenia, if you don't like things blowing up, then Oppenheimer is not gonna be the movie for you because there is a pretty big explosion in it. Corey, I want to hear your opinion on Oppenheimer because you're a history guy, so you probably already knew all of this stuff. Well, how did you think about them bringing it to the big screen?
Again, sorry, I did not watch Oppenheimer. We tried, and most of the time when I go to the movies, I got to look at something that I could take my kids to also because they're so expensive these days. And we were gonna go and watch it, and then it left theaters, and then it came back again, and we were gonna, because I could have watched it at home, but I really wanted to see it on the big screen. I really love his movies, but I didn't see Oppenheimer yet. But I did hear The Bear won quite a bit at the Golden Globes last night, and I did watch that recently and really enjoyed The Bear. So I was happy to hear that.
Season? What did you think? I heard the second season is better than the first. I haven't watched it yet.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the first season is great. They unpacked the characters a lot more in the second season and really explored a lot of that. And they're good characters. And at the end, it's got a great message. It's very frenetic, very heavy at times, but at the same time, it's got this core and this heart and this message of family and hard work and dedication. And yeah, it's an excellent show. It's really good. And as far as Oppenheimer, I still want to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I'm sure it's phenomenal. I'm sure the cinematography is going to be incredible, the direction. And I've heard that the history is actually pretty good. There's a lot of movies in Hollywood, especially nowadays, that just completely ignore the history. A guy can stub his toe and then claim, later on write a movie about a guy that can see the future because of his right toe that was removed. And he can claim that was inspired by a true event, right? Because he stubbed his toe. So they kind of do that these days. And I heard that Oppenheimer's pretty close to the actual history. They stayed with it. So
too. I mean, I watched it edited because there were some parts in it that I didn't care about. And I heard we're not even pertinent to the story, but they put in, which, that happens sometimes. But I do like Cillian Murphy as an actor. So I was interested to see him. But it just could not hold my attention. I mean,
no,
it's so long. And I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon is very long too, but I just really loved Killers of the Flower Moon for a movie that was just as long. Cinematography was more beautiful. The acting was better. I mean,
acting was great in that one.
Necessarily compare only those two, but I wasn't a huge Oppenheimer fan. I think my family liked it a lot more than I did. I just was able to watch it at home, like you were saying, because there's no way I was going to go out to pay. But I watched it on a streaming service that I was able to edit it as well, and so it was still very long though. But you could tell Christopher Nolan made it for the theater. A lot of movies today are made for streaming, but you could tell he made it for the theater. Like the sound at your house is not the same. You're like, like a lot of things you just don't get the full effect of on a TV, no matter how big your TV is. So that's kind of unfortunate, but you know, he's a filmmaker for the time. Like he's not making anything for somebody's
That
TV.
does a lot of it with in the IMAX too, and
Yeah.
and I haven't seen any of his stuff in IMAX yet.
I mean, I know he's that kind of filmmaker. Like, yeah. So, but I usually like his stuff. I like Tenet. I like Inception. I mean, I usually really like his stuff, but this is probably my least favorite movie that he's done.
Oh, okay.
Geoffrey, what did you think about it, or what did you think of the Golden Globes last night?
I didn't see the Golden Globes last night, and I did not see the movie. So I'm being real with you. No, I didn't.
No,
I didn't
you didn't miss much. No, I'm just
only Golden Globe part that I saw was Eugenia on IG with her dress and showing her beautiful earrings and her bag that somebody sent her, a designer. That was the least.
Let's all go to Eugenia's Instagram after this. I want to see the dress, Eugenia. That's exciting. Eugenia got feathers.
Bag, the
Shut up. I love the feathers.
Oh, it's so cute. Well, Geoffrey, we have to collaborate one day.
Yes. So I
love it. That's beautiful. Well, speaking of award shows, y'all can't say y'all hate award shows, because you know the FNL Network talk show, our show, got nominated for a Taste Award, which we were nominated for and won last year. But speaking of award show, the Oscars are coming up in March. SAG is coming up in February. Emmys are coming up in February as well. How do you guys feel about award season? Do you feel like Hollywood celebrates itself too much or too extravagantly? What are your thoughts about all the award shows in general, especially because of the writer's strike? Everything kind of got pushed. So it's like, you know, you never have Emmy, Oscar, Golden Globe all in the same like 6-week time frame, or, you know, or 8-week time frame. But because of the strike, they had to push everything. So it's like everything's together. So it's going to be kind of a crazy award season. What do you think about the whole idea of award season? Do you think do you think Hollywood celebrates themselves too much or too extravagantly? Geoffrey, what do you think?
No, I like it. I think it allows people to show, you know, I'm fashion. I'm just going to tell you. So when they come forward and they're with these beautiful gowns and the men are dressed really, you know, nice with their tuxedos on, that's the part I love. I love the red carpet moment. I'm just like, it gives me a high and pushes me to another level when it comes to design. And then you figure out that's going to be new look for 2023 or 2024, or the new color. To me, it's part of, you know, the culture. Like, I like it because I don't see it here on this end. I'm from Virginia Beach. So the over the top, amazing shows. I love it. I love watching it. I do.
Eugenia, what about you? I mean, you got dressed for one, so tell us everything.
Oh my God. Well, I will feel like such a hypocrite, honestly. I like belong to this town. You know, on one side, I always feel like, you know, there's wars in the world, and there's so much that we can do with like all the things as humanity, you know, to support people who really need it. So in that sense, I always felt like, yeah, Hollywood is celebrating itself way too much. And like, you know, but at the same time, you know, when I went out yesterday, I was just happy to see artists being together and like hugging and celebrating storytelling. You know, there are different layers to it. And like, it makes people dream, you know, you watch it and some of the moments are so beautiful and real and authentic, and how artists got to be celebrated for what they do. You know, it's a really tough world. So, you know, just to take a moment to support each other and have a community, it is beautiful as well. And like, you know, Jeff said, like, I love fashion. So dressing extra time and, you know, supporting designers. I try to always, when I go out, I try to wear designers who are up and coming, or like there's some kind of recyclable, you know, or couture aspect to that. So a lot of times I work with, you know, designers. You can give it back to them and support their craftsmanship. I love that about it. And, you know, I think we've been through so much. It was just so nice to be out and not to, you know, think about cancel culture or like the wars and things like that. And looking forward to the Emmys, and I'm excited for my husband. So, really excited for that. And yeah, hopefully, using my voice, I can give back. And that's the beauty of, doing all these things, is like you can use the artistry or whatever channels you have to do something better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That idea of using your platform, I think, is really important. What do you think, Corey?
I think overall it's fun.
Yeah.
It used to be a big deal to us. I'm a big movie guy. Me and my buddies, we would get together almost like the Super Bowl, and we'd sit down and we'd have a good time watching the Oscars. But it's been a while since we've done that. Like Geoffrey was saying, I think it's fun to see the red carpet. It's definitely like, I don't see myself dressing up like that, but it's one extreme versus the other, which is walking into Walmart and everybody's walking around in slippers and pajamas. And once upon a time, we all wore suits, we all wore dresses, everybody dressed up kind of nice. And I'm happy with my hoodies and being kind of relaxed, but it's still nice to have events and things once in a while that are worth getting dressed up for and doing all that. And I think it's the entertainment business. So it's definitely par for course to go out and do that and be entertaining. And it's Tinseltown, right? They've done that since the beginning. It's kind of always been the thing: lights, camera, action, the show. And we all, sometimes it's a train wreck that we can't pull our eyes away from, and sometimes it's beautiful and we love to watch it. Um, I think what pushed me away is the platforming stuff. I think there's a little bit too much like, oh, I'm going to be I'm so much better person than you are, and I'm so much better person than you are. And before long, it becomes a little bit too preachy sometimes in the actual awards. And it's more about like, did you make a good movie, and was your message in the movie? Did you tell a good story? And all of that stuff should be the only thing they're focusing on with those awards. But it helps and builds careers in Hollywood. It definitely, young actors and directors who end up getting those awards, it means a lot to them. And it becomes some of them couldn't care less, obviously, and they just want to forge their own way, and that's fine too. There's room for everybody in that one. And like Eugenia was saying, like anything becomes terrible when you put it in the wrong context. I mean, we sit there and look at this gorgeous dress and go, oh, that's such a beautiful dress. Oh, they spent so much on this dress. And part of you is like, wow, that's so glamorous. That's so cool. And you could be super negative and be like, some girl somewhere has a surgery that she needs, and the price of that dress could definitely have saved this family all of that trauma. But you can't do that. You can't, she mentioned the wars and stuff. Like, I think we need to celebrate when we have the chance to celebrate. And I think everybody likes to dress up. I think people like things to be beautiful once in a while. And I think that we need that because we need hope, and people like that need hope. And, even though you could take any situation and be like, well, you could have done this and you could have done that. And, you fall apart if you look at it that way all the time, right? It would destroy us to sit around all the time and think about how many could we have saved with this? Well, no, sometimes we got to stop and just be thankful for what we have, where we live, and what we can accomplish. And even for those people that need the money, there's still times when people need to be able to see what humans can accomplish. And Hollywood accomplishes big things. You take a movie like Oppenheimer. It may not have been your favorite, but think about what had to go into designing that movie and the effort that it went into that, right? And I don't know why it's coming to mind, but you think of something like Black Hawk Down, and you're talking about thousands of extras and orchestrating something like that. All of this just so a bunch of people can sit in a dark theater and watch something that kind of takes their minds off of the rest of the world or inspires them to go out into the world. There's power in storytelling, right? History's completely and utterly wrapped up in storytelling, and that's the only reason any of us ever care about it, is when it's told through story and the narrative of us as a people, right? So I think it can be a beautiful thing, and I think it can be a negative thing. And people are going to look at it as both of those things. Some people love it, some people hate it. Most of us are probably right in the middle. And I think it depends. And I think most of the time it can be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting that I read the Times a lot, and whatever reviews are going on or people talking about award shows, there's always people in the comments that are like, who cares? Hollywood's so self-important. They're always celebrating themselves. There's always people complaining. But it's like, I work in education. I'm a school counselor. There's an annual awards for school counselors. There's an annual awards for teachers. my friend used to sell cars, and she was one of the top salespeople for Toyota in the nation. And you know what she had? A giant award ceremony out of state. Like, we flew in, they had a fancy thing. Everybody wore fancy dresses. So I think everybody does it in every sector. It's just that because it's
the month, employee of the month,
televised, right? You know what I mean? It's like, and they do something that we all can see, right? If I'm a school counselor, I'm going into a classroom, everybody on earth can see that, right? But just because their art is a commodity that we all consume, then they could, export it everywhere and make a TV show about it. And then we see the ceremony and then everybody complains. But I'm like, we all celebrate. Hopefully, whatever job you're in, I hope that you're being celebrated, that you feel that appreciation, that you're being recognized and that your peers are saying, hey, we really appreciate you for what you do. And we think that you're exceptional. And I think that's awesome. So I think that's really funny, because my husband is one of those in my house who's like, oh, they're so self-important. And I'm like, when I'm watching any kind of award show, you have to be quiet or you cannot be in the room. Like, if you're not clapping for Ali Wong when she won beef, then out of the room. So he knows now. He is not even there if he's going to complain, because I am not having it. Yeah. So there are definitely reasons to celebrate. We can have both things going on at once. That doesn't mean that we don't care about the awful things that are happening in the world. We can also care about the awful things that are happening in the world and wear a dress with really cute purple feathers like Eugenia did last night. So we can do both. I just wanted to wrap up by talking a little bit about Ozempic and body positivity. Oprah came out last week, and Oprah only caught my eye because I adore Oprah. I was able to meet her a couple of times. She was wonderful. She's so amazing. I think she's just done brilliant things for the culture. But she came out and said, after hitting the red carpet, because she produced the Color Purple musical film, she's been on the red carpet wearing beautiful purple dresses, and her waist is snatched like it has never been. But she came out and said, yes, I've been using the weight loss drug. She didn't specifically say if it was Wegovy or Ozempic or whatever, but she said, I've been using a weight loss drug and I won't be shamed for it. And she said obesity is a disease, and I think that we should, not make people feel bad about using these weight loss drugs. They're really important. So I just thought, for you guys, what was your opinion on weight loss drugs, and do you think they'll have an overall negative or positive effect on the body positive movement that we've seen recently? What do you think, Eugenia? As a model, you probably have a really unique perspective here.
Well, kudos to you for meeting Oprah. I think she's amazing too, and such an inspiration. I just love, what she's done and how she's, spiritual and inspiring so many people, and has a school for girls, and just like, she's an amazing, amazing person. And I think she deserves to feel good about herself to start with. For us women in the public eye, it is always a problem. Like, growing up in fashion business, there were models of one size, and I had struggled with body image my whole life, because you have to fit in the dress. Like, that's the toughest part of the job, is like, you show up at the fitting, and some stylists would specifically bring clothes a size less than, just to shame you. And that, like, I swear to God, that happened a couple times on a job to a lot of people. Thank God that there's like rules and regulations now. My friend started, regulating the Model Alliance group that helps models to understand their rights. But for a long time, that was like a weapon that fashion industry would use against, anybody, not only women, but just models being hangers and, not having a body. Like, I had to go to psychology and therapy and, understand the separation from my body. And I talk about it at the Comedy Store, thank God. So I think there's a bigger problem, especially in this country. I lived in all different countries, and the food regulation, the food, FDA, like which kind of products are organic, like with the farming industry, I studied so much, how they raise, the chickens, and it is just really inhumane, and people are doing this for profit. And then of course it affects our bodies, all these hormones. There's like such a bigger issue of, people doing it for profit. And on the other side, there's pharmaceutical companies who, of course, will profit from that. Is it natural to lose weight that way? Like, what are the consequences, and like, what are you doing? What is going to happen to you in 20 years? So I always believed in your body knows better. We're just such amazing, humans are such amazing creatures. We can heal anything ourselves. Like, any disease starts from the mind. I went to India to meditate and studied Ayurveda culture, and how, people who have cancer are coming to specifically those like places, organic, where you're surrounded by healing medicine in plants, and they cure a lot of diseases right away. So it really depends on what you put and what you eat. But with all the advertisements and, trick kind of things in the industry, I feel in America, like it is hard to have a healthy approach to food as a medicine and a healing. So I think it definitely opens a lot of conversations, especially for her, like, I'm all for her feeling happy about herself. I think everybody deserves that. But at what extent? Look at like plastic surgery and how everybody's trying to look like Kim Kardashian. Like every model now, I swear to God, like has to have big lips and like filters. And I don't think it's real beauty. I think real beauty, we kind of disconnected as humans from that. Real beauty is in the diversity of us being of any age, of any color, of any shape and size. And that's the beauty of humans. We're born how we are, and we can't be trying to be perfect. I think this culture is obsessed with like perfection to some sense, which creates a lot of shame.
Well, Geoffrey, I mean, you are a fashion designer, so you've probably seen a lot of things from the other end. So what do you think about the whole body positivity movement? And do you think it will be affected positively or negatively with the advent of weight loss medications or prescription drugs?
Okay, so this is my opinion. I love Oprah. I think Oprah looks wonderful. But taking drugs and stuff is only a quick fix. Her body eventually gonna get used to that, and she's gonna go back to the natural weight. That's the thing that people don't really talk about. Your immune system is gonna be shocked for a little bit. You'll lose the weight. I know, because I up and down weight. And you have to work out. And I feel like sometimes as you get older, I like people aging gracefully. Because sometimes if you're too skinny, you look very sickly when you're getting older. And I feel like you don't want to be taking a whole bunch of different medicines and stuff, because you don't know how your metabolism or your immune system is going to be affected from taking those drugs. Your body changes, everything changes. So I don't, I have my pros and cons. Yeah, it looks amazing when you're younger and you have the immune system and then know to work out. But as you get older and you're taking medicines and stuff, you really have to be very careful. That's just my opinion. I don't think medicine is the fixer for everything. Like Eugenia said, everybody wants to live in this picture perfect world, and everybody don't have a picture perfect body. And I think that we as people, if we work out and exercise, if our body is what it is, we need to accept that and not being altering, with drugs and altering with surgeries and stuff, because to me personally, I feel like there's side effects as you get older. You can't maintain that. It's just not natural. You get older, you lose muscle mass and everything just changes. I know my body has totally changed. I'm not no young person anymore. So I seen my body as I started getting older, like 30s, everything shifts. Like you can't keep pulling everything together. It shifts. It's a natural thing of life.
What did you say? You can't keep pulling everything
No,
together.
you can't. Like
Oprah
you
is
feel it.
69. Oprah is gonna be 70, bro. Oprah is
Yeah,
69.
I
So you
love
said it don't
Oprah.
look good when it's older, but you said Oprah do look good.
She look good, but I'm
Is it
just
the
saying,
money?
listen to it's money, but you gotta also look when she's walking. You can see the age. I don't care how much you put the body together. You can see the bones and stuff as she walking. She looks good standing still, but when she moving and stuff, you can see it. You can see that she's an older woman by her walk. Like your bones and stuff, things change. I'm just being very real. She looks good, picture perfect at her age, But at what stink are you doing that? Because sometimes you need that body fat in order for you to, you know, move in life as you get older, 68, and it's just life. It is what it is,
All
you know?
right. Jeffrey says it is what it is, honey. Okay.
It's what it is.
Talk your talk, Jeffrey. What do you think, Corey?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I agree with a lot of what both of them were saying. Jeffrey was reminding me of that movie, Death Becomes Her. Right? You guys ever see that one with Goldie
Yes, with
Hawn?
Meryl Streep
Yeah,
with
and
the hole in
they
her.
want to live forever, be young and beautiful forever, and before long, they're looking so ridiculous that the entire point is lost on them. And then, of course, Bruce Willis's character allows himself to age gracefully. He moves away from all of that, stops caring, ends up having a family and a wonderful life. So I agree with you. My wife and I talk about it a lot, actually, when you see especially some of the older actresses, they start to do all kinds of things to themselves, and you're just like, I thought it looked better natural. I'm very big on just you looked wonderful. You're getting older. The people that point fingers at you because you're getting, I understand the industry, I do, but at the same time, it's similar to like modeling and stuff. I've worked a lot of regular jobs, a lot of regular guys, and I can tell you straight out, 9 out of 10 times we're looking at some magazine and they're talking about these standards, and half of us are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. She's gorgeous. They're gorgeous. All kinds of shapes and sizes, like, and I know there's all kinds of men who love all kinds of different shapes and sizes more, right? Some of them prefer, and yeah, the standard starts to emerge, and then uh, I think it hurts people more mentally. It hurts them than it does for, they say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and that's very true. With me, I've told my wife before, I said, if I sat down before I had met her and I made a list of these things I wanted in a woman, I'd have had things like, oh, she'll stay up all night playing video games and dumb things when I was younger that I thought were important. And I met her, and if I had a list of 100 things, she hit maybe 10. But there's 1,000 other things that she brought to the table that I never even considered that just drive me up the wall. They're just amazing. And
That's such a good
but
point, Corey.
yeah, and because of all the
That's
standards and other
maturity,
things,
though,
it's
isn't it?
sometimes it's hard for me to get her to believe that she's as amazing and gorgeous as she is. And oh, you're just saying that. I'm like, what are you saying, that I just settled? Like, come on now. What are you saying about me when you say that? And then these arguments I know happen between a lot of couples sometimes because there is that standard, and it becomes harder to look at it and say, let's age gracefully. Let's, but you do, it's like that diamond in the rough. You start looking for those things and realize what's important. And now it's become a thing where sometimes I see these people that are aging and I'm like, man, you're that old and you've missed the boat. You missed the point. If you're going to do that to yourself, you've missed the point. And you're at this age and you still haven't found some of those things that a lot of us have already been able to find, and that happiness in what we are and who we are and where we are, and that contentment. Not just contentment, because to some people contentment makes you think that you settled or whatever, and it's not that. It's finding that, like, no, I really genuinely enjoy this. Right when I first decided I wanted to marry my wife, there was this thing where I stopped and I went, dude, staying at home and watching movies with her is sometimes 10 times more fun than some of the best parties I ever went to with my friends. And they might have thought, oh, that's contentment. That's something. Like, no, it's like genuinely more enjoyable. It's genuinely more enriching. There's something powerful. And then kids come along and they age you so fast because you realize and you look and you go, oh my gosh, I wish I could bend my knees the way that kid that I just made bends his knees. And then some people even then go, back in the day when I was this and that. Now just be proud of what's there and what you have, your legacy. And you got to be proud of all that. Now, as far as that I think that speaks to what I believe in the body positivity. And as far as like the rest of the pills, I think the pills are still leaving out exercise. So the pills, for me, it's a case by case basis. Is it a good pill? Is it a pill that doesn't have, like Geoffrey was saying, some faults down the road? Cool. And it can help some people who really, really do struggle with it. But it might be abuse if you're somebody who doesn't struggle that much with weight, but you're using these because, again, as Geoffrey said, sometimes that weight and that fat is not only necessary for health, but for beauty as well, right? Sometimes some of these women with those slightly chubbier cheeks is more attractive, and Hollywood makes them lose all this weight, and before long you're like, you just look sickly now. You don't look healthy and young and vibrant. And it should be up to them. It should be, where do they find themselves happy? It's not up to me either, right? And I get that, but I wonder if the pill takes out the element of mental health and exercise, which are both necessary more than whether or not you have a lot of weight or not. I think being healthy and mentally and physically. So as long as it doesn't get in the way of all that, and as long as it's used appropriately and properly, then sure.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part, because I think that's what we learned through the body positivity movement is you can be healthy at a variety of weights. You can be a really unhealthy person and be really thin. You can be what someone would deem overweight and be a healthy person, right? So I just hope that the body positivity movement continues. I hope it's continues to flourish and continues to be embraced, even if you don't have that many people who, you know, even if Wegovy or Ozempic or whatever it is takes off, and it might be rarer to see someone, especially a celebrity with a diverse body size. Hopefully we'll see it just as often in everyday life like we see it now. It's popular, it's accepted. I love it, because a lot of times, you know, you can't tell if someone is healthy or unhealthy by their weight. So that's, you know, not all the time fair.
As long as they don't abuse it in either direction, right? Because sometimes too, you use it as an excuse to not exercise, never do anything, and be like, oh, I'm gorgeous the way I am. And your family's kind of like, oh, you've got diabetes, you got, you know, there's things you got to do. You got to take care of some of that stuff. So, you know, you don't want it to go to the extreme in either direction, I don't think. So we're trying to figure that out, trying to figure that balance out, right?
Yep. And just trying to allow space for everybody to exist in our society. I think that's really important. And I love what Eugenia was saying about how it can affect you mentally. Thank you for sharing your struggles too, Eugenia, about I would have never guessed that a designer would bring an outfit that they know you wouldn't be able to fit just to shame you. That's diabolical. That's really, that is so unhealthy, and just I'm glad that your friend came up with that organization that combats that and battles that. So that's just like a whole crazy situation that I had never heard of. It just sounds awful in that industry.
You know,
you guys have definitely, sorry, go ahead, Eugenia.
Oh, to share a story, I remember when Alexander McQueen passed away, they wanted to do like retrospective of the show, and they hired all these models, and some of them, it was like their first job, and they came with their parents, and the hair did like crazy hair. And then they didn't tell the models because the clothes were flown from London, I think. And they basically, like, after all the makeup, like 5 hours of makeup, they're like, okay, whoever fits the clothes better first is gonna walk the show. So all these girls are running to get into the clothes. It was like a fight, like Hunger Games, you know. And I was so sad, because some of the girls, it was their first show, and you can imagine like having all this makeup and for hours, and then they just wouldn't fit into the clothes. So that's like a little bit of an upsetting thing in the business that I still think can improve, you know.
Cruel, that's the word I was looking for. That's cruel. Yeah, that's cruel and unusual. Like, why would you even? Yeah, that's insane. So sorry to have to end on that note. But listen, at FNL Network Talk Show, we're not always like, we're here to bring you interesting stories and information, to make you think, to tell you things that maybe you hadn't considered. And hopefully we did that for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Geoffrey, it was great to see you. Eugenia, thanks for all your great stories and insight. Corey, thank you so much with your beautiful wife that we love to hear about. You guys have been great. We'll see you guys next week on the FNL Network Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us today.